When it comes to a husband's or a wife's expectations versus realities, there will be ups and downs in marriage for the both of you. It's common for relationships to experience rocky periods and trying times, but that doesn't mean that you can't get through them. When you experience a rough patch, the most important thing is to maintain a strong relationship and try to mend it. In this video, I'll be suggesting to you strategies to mend those rough patches that the realities of married life have created for you. For some of those expectations I mentioned in my last video, I'll give specific suggestions, while for the rest, I'll give some general advice that will be even useful for some other experiences not covered in the previous video. My name is Oluwakemi, your host on this channel, Marriage That Works, where we have the mandate to help put our marriages in the right perspective, God's perspective, by teaching and encouraging values which we believe will help transform our marriages from the necessary evil many have considered it to be to what God intends for us. I'd like you to subscribe to this channel. Also put on the notification button so that each time I post new videos, you will be informed. Recall that in my last video, the first unrealistic expectation I mentioned was that your husband or your wife would always make you happy, or that your marriage was going to bring you fulfillment. If that describes your situation, this is what you need to do. You need to first discover contentment on your own. If you were an unhappy single guy or lady, I'm sorry, there is no way marriage can bring you fulfillment. There is no way marriage can make you complete. In fact, you have only come to add a huge burden to the spouse's life, to your spouse's life, by expecting him or her to bring you happiness. The only person that can give you happiness is you. So you need to discover yourself first. Learn to love and appreciate yourself. Find things that make you happy and fulfilled and begin to do them. If you need to seek help, please don't hesitate to do so. To manage the reality you're faced with, which is in contrast to your expectation of your husband being the perfect gentleman or your wife being a flawless angel, first, you need to forget about whether or not he or she pretended to be who they're not while you were dating, because that won't solve anything. Instead, choose to love him for who he is. Be determined to love her for who she is. Look out for the positive traits in him and appreciate him for those. Think about those special reasons you chose that particular woman to be your wife, as well as the qualities you appreciate and enjoy about her. Remove your attention from your spouse's faults. Be grateful instead of being critical. You should also find a way to communicate your concerns to your spouse. Both of you need to find a way to voice your concerns to each other in a loving way that doesn't suggest one person wanting to control the other. You must also be willing to listen to your spouse's concerns about you rather than put up a defense, because you most likely have fallen short of your spouse's expectations as well. Here are a few more suggestions on how to manage your marriage realities. Number one, be open-minded. Be willing to make concessions. If you and your partner realize that your expectations for the marriage are in no way compatible, don't automatically presume that your marriage is doomed. Open-mindedness and consideration of your spouse's expectations can actually foster intimacy and marital development. In order to find a common ground, you both need to take into account each other's expectations rather than hanging on to what is essential to you tenaciously. Number two, resist the temptation to change your spouse. When it comes to learning how to manage expectation in a relationship, one of the worst mistakes you can make is trying to change your partner. When you try to force your own ideologies down your partner's throat, or when you try to bend your spouse to suit your own purpose, you put a lot of strains on your marriage. Just because your expectations aren't met doesn't mean that your partner is a problem that must be fixed. Remember, the only person you can change is you. So rather than trying to change your spouse, look out for things you need to change in yourself and work on those. Leave the changes your partner needs to make to him or her to decide on when and how to work on them. Number 3, don't you judge your marriage by those of others. As tempting as it may be, it is so unproductive to use other marriages as a yardstick or a standard for your own. Doing that ignores the unique characteristics of your personality and needs, as well as those of your spouse, without taking into account what makes your relationship unique and special. Instead of comparing your relationship to others or your spouse to the next door wife or the colleague at work, work with your partner to establish your own standards and goals. Although it is easy to fall into that temptation, I am begging you to desist from such, because doing so will only leave you disappointed and frustrated. So stop comparing your relationship to others. Instead, make a new commitment to it. The last thing I'm going to mention here in this video on how to manage your realities in marriage is that you need to show respect to your spouse. Every successful relationship is built on respect. Effective communication is based on respect, which is valuing the viewpoints and requirements of the other person. Never correct your spouse out of regard for them. Instead, look for a light-hearted, sympathetic approach to reframe a discussion. From there, you can come up with answers without escalating the situation. Marriage is a beautiful bond and connection. Oh yes, there are challenging times. There are growing pains, tension, annoyances, and so on. But there is always a solution. So I beg you to always treat your spouse with respect. Be kind to each other always. Set realistic goals for your marriage. Your marriage will surely remain strong as a result of that. Don't give up just yet. Even if after putting all these recommendations into practice, you still not, seem to be making progress. Don't start regretting your choice of spouse, and don't become resentful that you have to continue with this union despite having no chance of achieving your goals. Instead, I implore you to seek out a marriage expert who won't support the myth that happiness is just around the corner if you only can go past this error into something new. You can get in touch with me. It's not as bleak as you think it is. In order to create a more mature partnership, it only requires a new point of view. Till I come your way again in my next video, peace be upon your home.